Let's talk about our hosts, our co-hosts, I should say. Let's get a little vibe check, temperature check. Mexico coming off a 0-0 draw versus Uruguay. Now, if you look back at their last 5 games, Chuck, after they beat us in the Gold Cup final, they have 0 wins. But they have 4 draws. They drew with Japan. They drew with South Korea. They ended up losing 4-0 to Colombia. So that was the only blemish, I would say. But they haven't scored recently either. And so now there was a quote here after the game from Raul Jiménez, who said this to when he was on TV talking to Azteca Deportes. It's sad to play at home. This is Raul Jiménez saying this about his own fans. It's sad to play at home and get booed, to hear people shout Vasco out or yell expletives at the goalkeeper. That's what's really sad. Maybe that's why they always take us to the United States. Yikes. So it's I guess it's not isolated to just us. If we're not playing well, people want people fired, but I guess we're seeing that in general across the world and in all sports. That instant gratification of we need to win and we need to win now every single time we step on the field. And it's not to say the players aren't trying, but I think there's an element of aesthetics. Like, we want to win, and we want to win in a way that we're proud of how we're playing. And I use Mexico as an example here, but I think that's where maybe some of the frustration comes from fans of El Tri.
Yeah, I think it's tough because it's a new generation, but we were so accustomed to seeing Mexico dominate possession. They were such a strong team. When they kept the ball, they had you chasing and running throughout most of the game. And then we talk about the home factor of playing in Azteca with the heat and the altitude. They would just tire you out, and then the goals would start coming.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have that fear factor anymore.
Yeah.
So I think that's a part of it. When you watch them play, there's not a real identity, 1, and 2, they just don't have those game changers that we're accustomed to seeing from them. When you talk about whether it's Chicharito and Gio Dos Santos and Carlos Vela and, these generational players, they just don't have those players. Even like a Tecatito. Remember, like, Corona would get on the ball, and when Dazzle and you'd be like, oh God, who's going to defend this? They just don't have those players anymore. So I feel for Raul Jiménez because he deserves, that whole team deserves support from a nation that when they are behind that team, you feel it. I remember playing in Azteca. You feel it. There's a presence, and I think it's gone, unfortunately.
Yeah, just 4 months ago, they were lifting the Gold Cup. As we mentioned, that was their second trophy in 5 months because they had won the Nations League as well. So it's funny how quickly things can change again. And I feel this way about our team as well. Once the World Cup is here, everybody's going to be behind their team. And so I'm not ultimately too worried about it, whether it's for us or Mexico or Canada. But yeah, obviously you want to be in a position to be playing as well as you possibly can for as long as you possibly can. And let's be honest, fans of any team, I mean, do you want to peak? Do you really want to peak 7 months before the World Cup starts? No, baby, you want to peak 7 months from now. That's what you're working towards. So obviously every team's got questions.
It's not about peaking, but you want to see positive steps being taken. And that's not happening.
Yeah.
So that's a major flag. If you're going to make a move, you would make it now, right?
Yes, of course. Yeah. You want to make a move. Yeah. I agree with you on that.
Like I think they have enough to say, all right, if this isn't going the way we planned and we're not seeing progress, you got to show me progress.
Right.
Whether it's players coming in, whether it's a style and identity, maybe not so much the results, but when you're watching them play, are we seeing something that gets us excited? And if the answer is no, and it's been stale, then maybe this is the time to make that move.
Yeah, just the last 5 results once again for Mexico. 0-0 draw against Japan, 2-2 draw against South Korea, 4-0 loss to Colombia, 1-1 draw against Ecuador, and now a 0-0 draw against Uruguay, which was a little bit more about kicking each other than it was about playing the
but all 5 opponents are top opponents, right? So
World Cup opponents. Yeah.
And they only have 1 loss of those. So if we're talking solely results, that's not that bad. You had 1 bad game against Colombia, and Colombia is top. So, it's not the end of the world. But if you're telling me the actual performances were trash, then that's a whole nother thing.
So here's the headline. Charlie Davies thinks that Mexico is going to draw their way to the World Cup trophy. All right, let's talk about Canada, our neighbors to the north here. When we take a look at their recent results, they had two very, very good ones not too long ago in Europe. They went to Romania and won that one 3-0. Really impressive to win on European soil. Then went to Wales and backed it up with a 1-0 win. And then came home and have played 3 games since. They lost to Australia 1-0. They should not have lost that game. They created so many chances. And so I think there's still, for Jesse Marsch and the team, they could still feel pretty encouraged that they did enough. They just weren't hitting the back of the net. The Colombia game, a 0-0 draw. I can't remember Colombia or Ecuador. They got a early red card. Ahmed got a red card, and they had to be down a man for 84 minutes. I believe it's the Ecuador game. And so that one I kind of just threw out the window. They still had a good chance. Tani Oluwase had an unbelievable chance. It was a really good save there. And I actually think they still had a better XG being down a man for 84 minutes than Ecuador did. So there's still something to be positive. But there's a lot of heat on Jesse right now that they're not finishing their chances. And obviously Jonathan David, who's their star, hasn't scored for club or country in a while. His only goal for Juventus was the first game of the season for Juve, and now he doesn't even start for them. Vlahovic is back in as the number 9. So they've got their own issues up north in the red and white of Canada.
It's tough if Jonathan David isn't having the success that he had for club football, so his confidence is low. He's not getting the reps, the match sharpness, and now he comes to Canada where they need him to be that star. You could see that something's got to change, and I hope for Jesse he figures it out.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to figure it out. I'm sure, and one of the things that I know that Jesse's been talking about in press conferences is just how good they've been defensively. In these 5 games, they've only given up 5 shots on goal. And as a reminder, Alphonso Davies is still out with a knee injury. So at some point, they're going to be even more dynamic when he comes in. And when you think about Alphonso Davies on the left and then Tejan Buchanan setting up on the right and cutting in. And
I think he's close. He's close to getting back, like in the conversation. Like for March, he'll be ready to go.
He'll be flying. Yeah, he's going to have a nice run up into the World Cup. So that just adds another layer, I think, for Canada. And we know Jesse's going to have the team fired up and ready to go. But I actually have been really impressed with their defensive organization. Only giving up 5 shots on goal against those 5 opponents is really impressive. But you still got to bring, as we mentioned before, our favorite coaching phrase here, we got to bring attacks to completion. They got to get more out of what they're doing when they're going forward. And that seems to be a problem around the world for all the national teams and maybe even some of the top clubs as well. You can get into good spots, but what can you do once you get there is not an easy thing to unlock at times. So overall, Chuck, it seems like I feel like we've got the most wind at our back right now. If we talk about all the co-hosts, the U.S. is feeling like we're okay. All right, we're good. Our identity is starting to be more sharp.
Oh yeah.
I'm feeling good.
In terms of Mexico and Canada, I'm feeling good. I'm going USA.
You're still here? Yes, I absolutely love that. Listen, while I have your attention, if you want more average to good soccer content, this is the channel for you. Go check out our other videos. Go check out our playlists. And if you're really liking what you're seeing, I don't know how you couldn't, hit like, hit subscribe, of course, and then turn on your notifications so that you do not miss anything that we drop or when we go live. We'd really appreciate that. We'll see you next time.